Imagine working somewhere for 16 years, being the person everyone trusts to keep things running smoothly, and then one day, bam, you're publicly fired and blamed for losing millions. But here's the twist. That termination became the spark that ignited one of the biggest corporate scandals in biotech history. This is the story of how one woman's meticulous record-keeping brought down an entire corrupt empire. Let me introduce you to Clarice Johnson, 52 years old, mother, and the kind of person who believes in doing things the right way, even when it's harder. For 16 years, she worked at Helix Biolabs in Atlanta, making sure this prestigious biomedical company followed every safety rule and ethical guideline to the letter. She wasn't flashy or loud. She was the quiet professional who kept everything running behind the scenes. Then 6 months before our story begins, everything changed. A New York investment firm bought Helix, and in walked Brent Holloway as the new CEO. Think corporate shark in an expensive suit, all polish on the surface, all ruthless calculation underneath. His mission was simple: maximize profits, minimize delays, get results fast. So here's where things get dramatic. It's a humid Thursday in June, and Clarice walks into what she thinks is just another quarterly meeting. The conference room is all glass and chrome, very corporate, very intimidating. Around the table sit her colleagues, some old friends, others new faces from the merger. Then Brent Holloway explodes. "This is absolutely unacceptable, Clarice." His voice booms through the room like a thunderclap. Several people actually jump in their seats. "Your carelessness has cost this company millions." Picture the scene. Clarice sitting there, completely blindsided, while every person in that room stares at her like she's committed some terrible crime. What started as a routine meeting had just become her very public crucifixion. Holloway keeps hammering, "The NIH just canceled funding for our arthritis research. $7.8 million vanished." Then he delivers the killing blow. This disaster is entirely Clarice Johnson's fault. She's terminated, effective right now. No conversation, no chance to defend herself, just a corporate execution, swift and brutal. Here's what I love about Clarice. She didn't break down, didn't cause a scene. She stood up slowly, smoothed down that navy blue blazer she'd worn on her very first day at the company, and walked out of there with her head held high. Her world was falling apart, but she wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of seeing her crumble. Back in her office, she moved like someone underwater, carefully packing 16 years of her professional life into a cardboard box. Family, pictures, awards for safety excellence, handwritten thank you notes from younger scientists she'd mentored. One note caught her attention, from a former employee named Kendra. "Thank you for teaching me to care more about doing things correctly than doing them quickly." But then Clarice found something in her desk drawer that would change everything. A simple black notebook. Here's where the story gets really good. When the acquisition happened, Clarice's instincts told her something wasn't right. So she started keeping detailed records of everything: dates, chemical inventories, documentation irregularities, safety violations. This wasn't paranoia. This was professional intuition honed over 16 years. Inside that notebook was a treasure trove. Screenshots showing her access cards being used for late-night lab entry when she was at home. Altered experimental data. Falsified safety reports. The evidence was overwhelming and damning. They hadn't just fired her unfairly. They had deliberately framed her. That night, Clarice sat at her kitchen table with evidence scattered everywhere and her laptop open. Her husband Leonard brought her tea in a mug their son had given her. "Boss lady," written in bright pink letters. "I did nothing wrong," she said quietly. Leonard's response was perfect. "I know, and they just made the biggest mistake of their corporate lives." While most people would be crying or drinking or both, Clarice spent the entire night organizing her evidence with surgical precision. Reports for OSHA, documentation for the Office of Human Research Protections, every accusation, backed by solid proof. Her hurt feelings had crystallized into something much more dangerous: focused determination. The next morning, Clarice got dressed like she was going to war. Professionally pressed blazer, hair perfectly arranged, expression calm, but determined. She drove back to Helix and handed a sealed envelope to the stunned receptionist. "Make sure the board of directors gets this," she said with a slight smile that probably sent chills down the receptionist's spine. As she was leaving, Dr. Russell, the new research director, came running after her, looking like he hadn't slept in weeks. "Clarice, wait! I need you to know I disagreed with yesterday's meeting," he said, gasping for breath. Her response was ice cold. "Funny, you seemed pretty quiet yesterday." "I wasn't sure what I should do," he stammered. "You had options, and you chose silence." Then Russell made a critical mistake. He revealed too much. "Brent told us we needed faster results. He claimed your documentation and safety checks were slowing everything down." "Those safety checks protect people," Clarice replied steadily. "They make our research trustworthy." Then she dropped the bombshell. "Someone used my security credentials to approve modifications I never even saw. That wasn't some accident." Russell's face went white with terror. 16 years, Doctor. I understand every process in this facility. Did you honestly believe I wouldn't discover the truth?" That evening, Clarice sent 2 comprehensive emails to federal oversight agencies, complete with every piece of evidence she'd gathered. She wasn't seeking revenge. She was protecting the scientific integrity she'd spent her career defending. By Monday morning, whispers were echoing through Helix's corridors. OSHA investigators arrived unannounced. Senior management went into panic mode, holding emergency meetings behind closed doors. Then Clarice received an email that changed the entire game. From Dr. Evelyn Marsh, one of Helix's original founders. "I always recognized you as our laboratory's ethical compass. The board reached out to me. Can we meet? I believe this situation is far from finished." That Friday, Clarice made the drive to Savannah to meet Dr. Marsh. This wasn't just a friendly chat. Evelyn was mobilizing for battle. Within hours, she'd started assembling an independent review panel. Retired ethics specialists, former NIH consultants, respected researchers with impeccable reputations and nothing to lose. The revelations were explosive. The NIH had actually red-flagged that grant long before any compliance issues surfaced. The trial success rates looked suspiciously perfect because the raw data had been systematically manipulated. Holloway knew everything and deliberately ignored it, then needed a scapegoat when things fell apart. Within days, the federal investigation expanded dramatically. OSHA confirmed multiple violations that perfectly matched Clarice's documentation. The NIH launched their own investigation through the Office of Research Integrity. Both Holloway and Russell found themselves under official administrative review. Local. Atlanta News picked up the story. Ethics whistleblower exposes problems at major biomedical company. The scientific community started connecting dots, and former colleagues began contacting Clarice with similar stories from their own workplaces. Tales of shortcuts, ignored protocols, safety sacrificed for speed and profit. The NIH Office of Research Integrity summoned Clarice to Washington for formal sworn testimony. In a federal building, facing a panel of serious investigators, she methodically presented her timeline. The first suspicious chemical inventory discrepancies, the 2 clean data sets, the night she discovered unauthorized use of her login credentials. Every statement was supported by concrete evidence. Her personal files, backup data from the lab's systems, even audio recordings from a safety seminar where Holloway joked about eliminating bureaucratic red tape. When the lead investigator asked if she was prepared for possible congressional hearings, Clarice answered without hesitation, "If that's what's required to prevent this from recurring, absolutely." Back in Atlanta, Helix's board convened emergency sessions. Under intense media scrutiny and shareholder pressure, they terminated Holloway's employment contract. Russell, facing potential criminal prosecution for data falsification, submitted his resignation. The company culture transformed overnight. Employees who had whispered nervously in corners now openly demanded transparency. Safety procedures that had been abandoned were immediately reinstated. Then came the call Clarice never anticipated. The board chairman requesting a meeting, offering reinstatement, plus compensation for reputational damage. Clarice's response surprised everyone. "I appreciate the gesture, but I've already accepted another position. However, I'm willing to consult during your rebuilding process, assuming you're serious about doing things properly this time." The University of Michigan recruited Clarice for a newly created role, Director of Research Ethics and Compliance Training. During her interview, they didn't ask about the scandal. They asked about her principles and values. The department head's final comment said everything. "We don't view you as a troublemaker. We see you as a protector." Meanwhile, the consequences kept mounting. OSHA issued 27 violations totaling over $300,000 in fines. The NIH suspended all active grants, pending further review. Russell, now cooperating with federal investigators, provided evidence implicating not just Holloway, but executives at the parent investment firm. 6 months after walking out with only a cardboard box and a notebook full of truth, Clarice found herself before the House Committee on Science, Space, and Technology. The hearing room buzzed with tension as cameras captured every moment. Sitting nearby were the same executives who had tried to destroy her career. Her testimony was crystal clear and devastating, describing the cultural transformation following the acquisition, the relentless pressure for rapid results, the systematic dismantling of safety protocols that had once been sacred. When asked about the prevalence of such pressure in private laboratories, she was brutally honest. Far more widespread than anyone wants to acknowledge. When financial returns become tied to scientific results, data manipulation transforms from possibility to expectation. Her most quoted statement, "When we trade scientific truth for market profits, we stop conducting research and start peddling fantasies." Clarice's ethics training framework began spreading nationwide. Universities across America requested her curriculum modules. Her inbox flooded with messages from laboratory workers expressing gratitude for inspiring their courage to speak up. One message particularly moved her from a young woman in Austin. "Your courage helped me report safety violations at my workplace. I expected to lose my job. Instead, management was fired and our policies completely changed. Thank you for showing me that speaking up is worth the risk." A full year after that devastating meeting, Clarice addressed a packed university auditorium, presenting her research on scientific integrity restoration. Her published article, "Rebuilding Trust: A Framework for Restoring Scientific Integrity in Private Research," had been accepted by the American Journal of Biomedical Ethics. Her message resonated far beyond academic circles. In this field, you'll face enormous pressure to publish, to compete, to generate results. But remember, your primary obligation is to truth, not convenience, not profit. Truth, because once you abandon that principle, you cease being a researcher and become something far less valuable. Clarice Johnson's journey transcends one person's battle against corporate corruption. It demonstrates how individual integrity can expose entire systems designed to silence those who speak truth to power. She never intended to become a whistleblower. She simply refused to allow deception to masquerade as legitimate science. In defending her principles, she didn't just restore her reputation, she created a roadmap for others facing similar challenges. Today, Clarice's name commands respect throughout the scientific community, not because she fought back, but because she maintained dignity, precision, and unwavering ethical standards throughout her battle. Truth became her shield and sword, carrying her through the storm to calmer waters. She now stands not as a victim or even a whistleblower, but as an architect of positive change. Her work continues, building stronger ethical foundations for future generations of researchers. What strikes me most about this story is how one person's commitment to doing the right thing can create ripple effects that transform entire industries. Clarice Johnson proved that integrity isn't just a nice ideal. It's a powerful force that can bring down corrupt systems and rebuild them better. Her journey reminds us that sometimes the most important battles aren't fought with weapons or wealth, but with truth, courage, and meticulous documentation in a simple black notebook. What would you have done in her situation? Have you ever witnessed unethical behavior in your workplace? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if this story inspired you, hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible true stories of courage and justice. Remember, standing up for what's right might cost you everything in the short term, but it's often the only way to build something better for the future.